Good morning, everyone. My name is Edgar, and welcome to another installment of Aquarium Online Academy. And today, we're going to be going over a very special marine habitat called marine meadows. So, marine meadows are some of the most important coastal habitats here in California, and they provide a variety of functions, um, not just for the local fish and animals that inhabit our oceans but also for us as well, living here uh, on the West Coast. So, if you want to join me and learn about this amazing habitat, you can always text in and call in and send an email of any question or observation that you have. You can text any live question to 562 286 1838. We have the number down here on the screen. Or you can email questions if you are not watching this live to live@lbaop.org. So thank you for joining us. It is Tuesday, September 23rd at 9 a.m. And if you are watching this live, like I said, we're going to be going through and learning all about marine meadows, and you can interact with us whenever you want by texting that number right there. So, thank you for joining us. We're going to dive right in and talk about what are marine meadows. So, marine meadows are essentially underwater prairies. So, I'm going to step outside so we can look at a picture of what I am talking about. So, if you've ever been to a grassland or a meadow on land, they actually also exist underwater. We have underwater prairies all along our coast that provide essential habitat to many different species of fish, mammals, and invertebrates all along our coast. They are super important because they capture CO2 actually, and they do it at a rate that is 35 times faster than rainforests. So not only are they providing a home for all these animals, they provide this amazing ecological service of capturing CO2, just like a forest or a grassland would on land. So not only do these meadows capture CO2, they actually help to stabilize ocean sediment. The marine meadows occur in shallow waters near the shoreline, and the root systems of all the plants that are living in these meadows sta- uh, stabilize the sediment and protect our shoreline from erosion, just like plants do here on land by stabilizing cliff sides and the like. They also provide that same function in the ocean, stabilizing our coastline so that we can enjoy it. Um, and not only do they provide that amazing service of stabilizing our ocean, they also filter our coastal waters. So any runoff that might come in from rivers, in estuaries, they actually help by filtering that out, absorbing excess nutrients, and doing just all these amazing functions aside from being this great habitat uh, for our ocean neighbors. So let's go talk about a little bit about what are marine meadows. What are these green structures? So sometimes are confused. I'm gonna step in here. Sometimes you see all this green. Sometimes we like to think maybe it is algae, right? In kelp forest, even though it's called a forest, it's not really a plant. It's a algae, but in seagrass meadows, it's actually a plant. It is one of the true. Oh, here we have a beautiful shot of a marine grass meadow swaying in the waves. I was gonna say wind, but then I realized that we are underwater, and so these plants are true plants. So just like the plants on land, they have roots and they have leaves and stems. Not only that, they actually complete the entire life cycle in the ocean. So yes, including pollination, they pollinate in the water. They have developed special adaptations to be able to do that. And they also are true angiosperms. Now, what is an angiosperm? Well, an angiosperm is any plant that has a flower. So these are true flowering plants, making them one of the only marine uh, plants that actually exist and live on our planet, which is really, really amazing. We're going to talk about that these meadows here specifically to California, but you can find them all over the world in many different areas. There's so many different species of seagrass. There's about over 50, possibly over 70 different species of seagrass all over the world. But we're going to talk about two specifically today. We're going to talk about eelgrass and we're going to talk about surfgrass. Now, let's talk about eelgrass first. But before I go on, I want to talk about how the health of these marine meadows is actually tied to the health of our entire coastline. So they're super critical for us to take care of. Um, and we have to make sure we are monitoring and studying these habitats because of such an important service that they provide. Like I mentioned before, they provide all these amazing services like stabilizing the sediment, filtering water, and storing CO2. But we're going to find out a bit more what kind of service they provide to our ocean neighbors. So eelgrass, um, as pictured here, this is footage from one of our amazing exhibits here at the aquarium. This is our Marine Meadows exhibit where we have eelgrass and various other species of fish. And it is the scientific name for eelgrass is called Zostera. It is There's many different types, but the most common one will be Zostera marina, which is common eelgrass. And eelgrass is one of the most productive marine environments in the ocean. These eelgrass habitats provide foraging areas for young fish, and they also provide shelter as well. And then not only do local animals take advantage of these amazing services, uh, turtles and other migratory waterfowl also take advantage by using the food that they provide. And not only is it a good source of a snack, uh, it is a great spawning surface for many, many marine fish where they can come in and breed and reproduce. And the reason that it is such a great environment for reproduction is that it actually reduces wave energy. That eelgrass, all those blades, all that mass, that dense leaves of eelgrass, they reduce wave action. So they provide a protected area where these young fish can escape from the harsh energy of those waves coming into our shoreline. And so the eelgrass itself has adapted to this by having these very flexible leaves that will bend and move with the water as it's coming in instead of breaking. So that's one of the very special adaptations that these grasses have developed. Now, eelgrass is also really important because it improves the water quality. So wherever you put eelgrass, it will filter out any runoff or pollutant that comes through it. So it is super, super important for creating clean and healthy waters off of our coast and providing that safe habitat for those fish. Now, it filters water, provides shelter, but it does one more really important uh, thing, and that is it absorbs excess nutrients. Nutrients such as phosphorus and nitrogen that may be in the water that may provide, you know, uh, a bit too much fuel for those dangerous algal blooms that we hear about so much. Well, eelgrass could actually help by storing that uh, excess nutrients and maybe even preventing some of those harmful blooms that we see um, all the time off our oceans that we hear about that are so dangerous to our animals. So these are just amazing, amazing plants that live right off our coast. Seagrass prefer sandy bottoms, and they occur a lot along uh, estuaries and many different kinds of coastal waters. Um, and so they provide crucial habitat for many ground fish, such as rockfish, flatfish, Pacific cod, and even some leopard sharks that we have here at the aquarium. They are really, really, really unique and amazing. And now, the other type of seagrass that I will talk about today is surfgrass. But I want to take a moment here and I invite you to text any questions that you might have. We talked about uh, what are marine meadows. We've talked about eel grass and some of the services they provide. And before we move on, I want to invite you to ask any questions you might have. Text those questions to this number right here live at to 562-286-1838. Or if you have an email, if you're watching this at any other day other than September 23rd at 9 o'clock, you can send an email to live@lbaop.org, and we can try our very best to get back to you. I almost guarantee someone will get back to you. We have staff constantly monitoring these lines. So any question you might have, we're more than happy to help you answer it. So surfgrass, let's take a look. Surfgrass. Now, surfgrass is slightly different than eelgrass. Um, and there's two main species here in California. We have Philospadix scoleri and Philospadix torii. And they typically are grouped together for our purposes. We're just going to group them together and talk about surfgrass in general. But I thought I should mention that. Um, and surfgrass, uh, and very distinct from eelgrass, is that it grows in large clumps and dense mats in the intertidal zone. So it'll grow um, not deep underwater here, well, not too deep, as you can see the beautiful sunlight coming down into the meadow. But you can see that it's pretty shallow, maybe about 50 feet, maybe up to 100 feet. Seagrass marine meadows um, will tend to occur in those shallow seas near the shore. But surfgrass actually occurs more in the intertidal zone where it will be exposed to the sunlight and to the air during low tide, and then during high tide, it might even be submerged underwater. Again, it is completely marine, so that means all of its life cycle processes occur in the ocean and underwater. Here we have another beautiful image of some marine seagrass meadows habitat where we have lots and lots of fishes swimming around. You can see how it would be advantageous to have these meadows as a young small fish, or even as a large full-grown fish. There's lots of places to hide, lots of different food. So it's just really amazing place. If you were a fish, this is where I would want to be. And so going back to surfgrass, they complete all of their life cycle in the ocean, just like eelgrass, making it a true marine grass or plant. They also have a very interesting feature, and that is that they are dioecious. Now, dioecious is a uh, very obscure word that plant scientists like to use when you talk about plants that have a male flower and plants that have female flowers on separate plants. And so you have um, some surfgrass will have the male flowers, and then some surfgrass, another completely different plant, will have the male flowers, and so they will pollinate and reproduce separately like that, which is really, I think, is really, really cool. And the pollination can occur either on the ocean surface or it can occur in the water, which is really, really interesting. And I also want to point out that surfgrass is part of our marine report card. It is highlighted, and it might interest you to know that it is actually on the rebound. It is trending upwards, meaning it is doing very well, even though they are threatened habitats and they are habitats of concern. Their surfgrass tends to be doing very well right now, thanks to all the management practices that have been put into place in California. So very, very cool stuff. So let's keep talking about surfgrass. And remember, if you have any of those questions, please text them in. Now, surfgrass, just like eelgrass, is really, really, really important and provides a lot of those similar services that we talked about, such as stabilizing the coastline, because it occurs closer to the coast. You know, those dense mats protect our coastline from being eroded. Um, Not only that, they also store carbon at an incredible rate and have a very large capacity to store that carbon. Now, surfgrass can actually store carbon at a rate of 83,000 metric tons of carbon per square kilometer. And that's so amazing because if you compare it to a terrestrial forest, that rate for the terrestrial forest is only 30,000 metric tons of carbon per square kilometer. So if you think about it, it is over 2 times, almost 3 times as um, it has 3 times the capacity to store that carbon. So if you think about just how crucial and important these areas are to not just us, but to our environment, it is super amazing. And one more thing I want to talk about surfgrass is just we mentioned that we talked about their dioecious nature, meaning that they have one female plant and one male plant. But because they live in that very high energy intertidal zone, you know, waves constantly coming in, you have so many opportunities to get knocked away or pulled away by the waves. Well, these plants have actually adapted super, super well and developed amazing adaptations to be able to withstand those uh, waves. So they grow in rocky surfaces compared to eelgrass, where they actually prefer those sandy surfaces and soft bottoms. Surfgrass tends to like rocky surfaces, and they have special hypodermal fibers and root hairs that allow them to really hold on to those rocks and prevent them from being taken away by the waves. Now, not only do they have those specialized root hairs, they also have rhizomes. And you might be wondering, Edgar, why you keep using all these really strange words like rhizomes, dioecious, but they're really important because these rhizomes not only do they help to anchor these plants to those rocky surfaces, they actually help to store nutrients. So that's really cool. They provide a double function, and they help to uh, make sure that this a species of uh, seagrass survives. So that's just some really cool facts about the grass itself. Really, really amazing. We have these habitats here in our coast. So now that we've talked about seagrass and the different types of seagrass that we might find in our marine meadows, um, let's before we move on to the different animals that live in these places, we have a question from one of our viewers, and that is, what is the difference between seagrass habitats and kelp forests, and do they ever overlap? Wow, that is such an amazing question. Now, here I'm going to step off, and we have a picture of those kelp forests that we're comparing them to. Now, one of the first things that stands out to me is that we have those very long strands of kelp that are coming down from the seafloor all the way up to the surface of the ocean. So when you ask about what the difference is, that is one of the main difference. Seagrasses tend to be more of large mats and large biomass and clumps that grow near the bottom of the seafloor. And here we have a beautiful infographic where we can see the different structure of kelp versus seagrass. So we have kelp over here. This is an algae. So kelp is not even an actual plant. It's a type of algae. It's a, a brown algae, giant kelp. Typically we have in our kelp forest here off our coast. And they are, even though they look very similar to a plant, these structures here that look like leaves are actually called blades, and they provide a similar function, but they actually do a multi-function of roots that the roots do and the leaves, so they will exchange nutrients, but then also they have that photosynthetic effect as well. And we have the long stem, what you might usually call a stem. It is called a stipe, and again, it provides that uh, central structure for the blades to grow out of, but also to transport nutrients up and down the kelp itself. And then we have this down here, which is one of the most critical differences between the kelp and the seagrass, and that is a holdfast. So we talked about how seagrass has roots. Well, kelp don't have really roots. They have a root-like structure called a holdfast, where they can anchor themselves to these rocks, which is really critical because one of the biggest threats to kelp forests is that severing of that holdfast, and that makes the whole algae or kelp kind of float away, and then you don't have any more kelp forest. So really, really important. And they also that that hold fast is really cool because it kind of works like a suction cup. It creates this um, area of suction that can like stick to the rock. And now comparing it to seagrass, where we have, let me step on this side. Comparing it to seagrass, where we actually have roots, leaves, and even flowers. So they are true flowering plants. So that's one of the major differences of between that seagrass, meadows, and the kelp forest is that the structure of the underlying primary producer is one is algae and then one is a actual true plant, but they do overlap. So sometimes when we have those kelp forests, we might have seagrass found at the bottom layer, and so there's sometimes areas where they are kind of overlapping and they are coexisting in the same area. So that's a really great question. Although I will say kelp forests tend to occur maybe a little slightly deeper, and they prefer different habitats. So kelp forests tend to prefer rocky bottoms, and a kind of like a exist between 50 to 100 feet deep from the shore, so maybe a little bit further from the shore. And then seagrass tends to like more shallower waters, where soft bottoms with like maybe some more uh, sandy and muddy bottoms close to the estuaries where those rivers come in. And so there's so many differences, but like everywhere, like just like we know, there's so many places where those areas overlap and they coexist. So thank you for asking. That's a wonderful question. And now you might ask yourself, wow, you've been talking about grass for so long, but let's talk about some animals. So let's talk about one of those really amazing creatures that live in the uh, seagrass habitat. And let's go with, let's see what my uh, partners here in the studio come up with. Let's see what animal we can talk about. Um, Hopefully, it's one that's really cute. Yes, you have this really cute armored sea star. As you can see, I'm gonna step off for a second so you can get a better look at some of the creatures that live in these seagrass meadows. So invertebrates like these sea stars, um, you can imagine how they would be really, really comfortable and happy in a seagrass meadow. These animals are very slow moving, but they are some of the best predators in the ocean. And so, an area like seagrass would provide many opportunities for them to hide and kind of like hunt as well. Given the fact that there's many, oh, you can see a little flatfish that swam by, and so seagrass meadows are just so full of life that they're actually known as nurseries for many, many different kinds of species of animals. So you can see just in this one little clip, we have many different species of fish. So we have these invertebrates that like to live there, but we also have flatfish that make them their breeding grounds. And so these flatfish, just like the one we see on screen right here, they love to uh, reproduce here. It provides a shelter for them. It provides plenty of food. It provides protection from waves. And so, before they can hide and, be protected by their camouflage, um, it helps to have somewhere where you can be protected and kind of grow into uh, that role of like being on your own. When we're all young and little, we're all more vulnerable, especially marine animals. So having places like marine meadows definitely helps to uh, you know protect those vulnerable populations of fish. And so there's lots and lots of different fish that that benefit from these marine meadows, not just flatfish, but also fish such as rockfish, Pacific cod, and even leopard sharks. You might find some kelp bass, you know, halibut. These are all very, very important uh, animals, not just for our ecosystem, but for our uh, just for our recreational fishing. And so, as part of that, um, acknowledging just the importance of uh, that need or that function, California actually has a policy. We have a California eelgrass mitigation policy management effort, and so that policy actually creates management strategies that can actually help to reduce the loss of our eelgrass and seagrass habitat. It actually helps to have us do no net loss of our habitat. And so we are wrapping up here.